we would get halfway through the script or halfway through the script writing process, and we'd find that we just weren't able to pull more out of it for him as a character, and we dropped it.
Martin Scorsese doesn't yell. He doesn't feud. He doesn't even fire people. He just stops calling. In an industry full of dramatic exits and public fallouts, Scorsese operates differently, quietly, surgically. For the actors he works with, landing a Scorsese role is the holy grail. But staying in his world? That's a different game entirely. Some actors vanish after one film. Others disappear before the cameras even roll. And Scorsese never explains why. He doesn't have to. His silence says everything. These are the actors Martin Scorsese cut off, without warning, without noise, and without ever looking back. They say working with Martin Scorsese is a privilege. For Mark Wahlberg, it felt more like a battlefield. When Wahlberg joined The Departed in 2006, he wasn't even supposed to be in the film for long, just a few sharp, explosive scenes as Staff Sergeant Dignam. But then the schedule shifted. Wahlberg had just finished shooting Invincible and came back with one small detail that didn't sit right with Scorsese. Hair extensions. Fake, glossy, out-of-place hair extensions. For a director obsessed with authenticity, it was a red flag. Wahlberg later admitted that things got tense, fast. On the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, he recalled Scorsese spotting the extensions and immediately demanding they be cut. Wahlberg refused. His exact words? "I don't give a f***." And with that, the mood on set shifted. The collaboration became a quiet power struggle. It wasn't just about hair, it was about control, discipline, and respect. Values Scorsese doesn't negotiate. Wahlberg clashed with more than just Marty. He felt out of sync with the entire cast. DiCaprio, Damon, Nicholson, all laser-focused, all locked into Scorsese's vision. Wahlberg wasn't. He admitted he didn't even want to do the movie. His agent committed him without his full interest. That indifference? It showed. Still, The Departed turned into a cinematic fever dream, earning Scorsese his long-overdue Oscar and giving Wahlberg his only Academy Award nomination. On paper, it worked. Behind the scenes, the damage was already done. No reunion, no follow-up role, no second chance. When asked years later if they'd ever work together again, Wahlberg gave a diplomatic answer. He said he understood where Scorsese was coming from, but there was no warmth in it, no hint of future collaboration. In Scorsese's world, hair extensions weren't just a cosmetic issue. They were a metaphor, a tiny detail that signaled something bigger, a misalignment of energy, of attitude, of commitment. And when that happens, Marty doesn't argue. He just moves on. And what happened next would be even colder. Before Goodfellas, before Casino, before the Scorsese-DiCaprio dynasty, there was a plan to make a gritty 70s gangster film with James Caan. The timing was perfect. The Godfather had just made Caan a household name, and Scorsese saw something electric in him. Raw, unfiltered, real. But the collaboration never made it past the starting line. Caan worked on instinct. He didn't just read lines, he attacked them. He improvised, he riffed, he brought chaos to the set. And that chaos clashed with Scorsese's religion, precision. They tried to make it work. Early table reads turned into arguments. Caan would throw out dialogue and rewrite scenes on the fly. Scorsese pushed back, tightening the screws, trying to preserve the story's spine. What started as creative tension became something sharper. The project stalled. The chemistry frayed. Scorsese eventually pulled the plug. The script was shelved, the set dismantled, and the partnership died quietly. No press statements, no blame, just distance. Caan later acknowledged it was a mismatch. "We spoke different languages," he said in a late interview. "Marty was exact. I was impulse." It wasn't a blowout. It was something worse. A total misfire of energy and rhythm. In Scorsese's world, that kind of dissonance isn't patched up. It's erased. They never worked together again. Not on a short film, not even in passing. For two icons of crime cinema, the silence is deafening. And it taught Scorsese a rule he never forgot. The wrong kind of energy isn't just disruptive, it's fatal. On paper, it should have worked. Julia Roberts was America's biggest star. Scorsese was already a legend. The idea? Cast her in the Age of Innocence, a period romance dripping with social tension and unspoken emotion. But from the very first meeting, something felt off. Scorsese needed quiet fire, restraint, repression, emotional stillness. Roberts, by contrast, was all forward momentum. She thrived in spontaneity, warmth, improvisation. Their methods didn't clash. They missed each other entirely. Sources close to the production said Roberts questioned everything: the costumes, the language, the emotional coldness of the character. She wanted to loosen the role up, bring some light into it. Scorsese didn't budge. He needed every corset tight, every pause earned, every scene locked in era-appropriate formality. The tension never exploded. It just evaporated the relationship. Roberts quietly exited the project. Michelle Pfeiffer replaced her. The film went on to earn critical praise. Roberts went on to win an Oscar. But that one spark, the brief moment they almost worked together, was never rekindled. Scorsese never offered her another role. Not when she did Erin Brockovich. Not when she pivoted to prestige dramas. Not even as a cameo. No Bad Blood. No interviews. Just silence. In a town built on second chances, this was the rare case of a first chance disappearing mid-sentence and never returning. By the early 90s, Winona Ryder was untouchable. Heathers, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands. She was Hollywood's gothic prodigy. So when Scorsese cast her in The Age of Innocence, it felt like a graduation into serious cinema. But something didn't fit. Ryder played Mae Welland, a character built on restraint, control, and emotional armor. On screen, she had to say everything while saying nothing. For Ryder, who thrived in expressive offbeat roles, it was like acting through a glass wall. The set was formal. Scorsese's direction was precise, almost surgical. Every glance and gesture was choreographed. Ryder struggled. She later admitted she couldn't fully grasp the character. "Marty had such a specific interpretation," she said, "and I couldn't quite find it." The disconnect never erupted. It just lingered. Quiet, steady, and irreversible. Ryder finished the film, but the vibe had changed. She didn't join the press tour. No interviews, no photo ops. She vanished from the promotional cycle entirely. And Scorsese? He never brought her back. No cameos, no phone calls, not even when she reinvented herself in prestige TV years later. The door wasn't slammed shut, but it was never reopened. For Scorsese, it wasn't personal. It was tonal. He needed stillness. She carried sparks. And in a film built on silence, her fire was too loud. In the early 2000s, Jim Carrey wanted out of the rubber-faced comedy box. He wanted something serious, something iconic. And Martin Scorsese was planning The Aviator, a sweeping biopic about the obsessive, brilliant, and unraveling Howard Hughes. Carrey chased the role. He started prepping before he was even cast, growing out his hair, reading biographies, losing himself in Hughes's world. It was a chance to transform completely. But transformation wasn't enough. Scorsese's vision for The Aviator was clean, exact, tightly controlled. Carrey's process wasn't. He wanted freedom, improvisation, creative looseness, rehearsals turned tense, Carrey veered off script. Scorsese pulled him back. Again and again, until something broke. Scorsese recast the film with Leonardo DiCaprio, and the rest is Oscar history. Carrey later admitted the rejection haunted him. "It broke my heart," he said. He respected Scorsese deeply. But respect wasn't enough to stay in the frame. Scorsese never approached him again. Not for a wild card role, not for a surprise drama. Nothing. In Scorsese's world, chaos is a risk, and he doesn't roll the dice. If a storm is forming before the cameras even start, he walks away. Quietly. Permanently. By the time Gangs of New York began filming in the early 2000s, Cameron Diaz was a superstar. She'd dominated box offices with charm, timing, and effortless presence. But for Scorsese's brutal, blood-stained epic set in 1860s New York, charm wasn't enough. Diaz was cast as Jenny Everdeen, a street-smart pickpocket with a tragic edge. But from the first week on set, there was a problem no one could quite name. She looked the part. She hit her marks. But something never clicked. Critics would later say it outright. She felt out of place. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Scorsese, known for molding his actors with precise intensity, reportedly struggled to pull the layered performance he envisioned. Diaz wasn't bad. She just didn't sync with the film's grim, feral tone. And Scorsese, ever the perfectionist, knew it. He never said a word publicly. He didn't need to. When Gangs of New York wrapped, the collaboration ended in silence. No second chance. No future casting. Despite Diaz taking on more dramatic roles later in her career, she never re-entered Scorsese's orbit. In a film soaked in violence and ambition, Diaz's character faded into the background, and in Scorsese's eyes, that was the quietest failure of all. Harvey Keitel wasn't just part of Martin Scorsese's early films. He was the early Scorsese era. Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, The Last Temptation of Christ. Keitel was the director's on-screen anchor, a raw, magnetic presence that grounded Scorsese's grittiest work. And then, he was gone. No falling out, no rumors, just silence. After the early 90s, Keitel's name stopped showing up in Scorsese's credits. While De Niro became the long-term muse and DiCaprio the new heir, Keitel faded from the inner circle. For someone once considered the soul of Scorsese's street-level cinema, the absence was jarring. Some said it was creative evolution. Scorsese's stories had moved on. Others whispered that Keitel's strong-willed nature had quietly clashed with the director's increasingly refined process. One source close to production described Keitel as too unpredictable, too old school for the films Scorsese started making in the 2000s. Whatever the reason, the phone stopped ringing. Even when The Irishman brought together nearly every living Scorsese icon, Keitel had only a few minutes of screen time, barely a presence in a 3.5-hour epic. For a man who helped build Scorsese's cinematic language, the silence felt personal, even if no one ever admitted it. Joe Pesci didn't just appear in Scorsese's films, he detonated in them. From the unhinged brutality of Goodfellas to the cold precision of Casino, Pesci gave Scorsese's underworld stories their fire, their madness, their teeth. And then, just like that, he vanished. After Casino in 1995, Pesci disappeared from the screen almost entirely. His retirement? No press tours, no projects, no indie comeback, just silence. But behind the scenes, there was more to the story. Insiders say Pesci had grown tired of the cycle, playing the loud gangster, getting boxed into rage-filled roles. And while Scorsese wanted him back for new projects, Pesci said no, again and again and again. Even The Irishman, a decades-in-the-making dream project, barely got him out of hiding. Scorsese reportedly begged him for years. It wasn't until De Niro personally stepped in that Pesci agreed to return, under one condition. He wouldn't play the same volatile character. No more hotheads, no more cursing tirades, just quiet menace. Pesci returned for one last role, but it was on his terms. And once the film wrapped, he disappeared again. Scorsese never pushed. Because in his world, once the rhythm fades, even with a legend like Pesci, you don't force the music. Martin Scorsese doesn't throw tantrums, he doesn't explode, he doesn't blacklist, he observes. And when the energy doesn't align, when the attitude, the instincts, or the rhythm drift even slightly off course, he simply walks away. Actors have built entire careers off a single Scorsese role. Others vanish after one misstep, one bad fit, one fracture in the foundation. Some never even get to start. And the message isn't loud, it's silent. No press statements, no public feuds, just a door that quietly closes and never reopens. In Hollywood, that's rare. In Scorsese's world, it's law. Because to him, filmmaking is sacred. And if you disrupt the rhythm even once, you're out of the frame for good.